Hello and welcome to this first lecture of a new section on collaborating and contributing in becoming a successful software developer. So in this section, we will cover three things. One, how can you collaborate on open source projects? How can you contribute on forums and communicate communities? And how can you share your knowledge? And in this lecture and a couple of more, we will talk to you about how to collaborate on an open source project. So, any thoughts on how to collaborate, contribute, and share your knowledge? See, collaboration on open source project and contributing to forums and communities and sharing knowledge is an important and a great way to give back to developer community, build your reputation and learn from others. So it's a multi-pronged strategy. And what we can do in this is, let's take a look at that. So first we'll start with how to collaborate on open source projects in this and a couple of lectures, right? So collaborating on open source projects is an important part. You would have seen by now, we have talked many times on how to collaborate on open source projects because that's where you will learn, that's why you will connect, and that's where you can get a job. So what are the few things that we can do to collaborate on open source projects? Let's take a look at them. See, first thing you need to do is explore open source projects that interest you. Now, where can you explore them? GitHub is one good platform, GitLab, and another is a Git bucket. Now, let's take an example of your exploring on GitHub. So there, once you log into this, you will need to look for project issues labeled as good first issue or help wanted, as these are often welcoming the new contributors. And you can also look for the open source projects by searching. As you see here in the search bar, typed out open source projects and it will take you to the open source projects in the repository. And here you see there are three projects that you can see on your screen here that are open source projects. So like this you can find projects. So you need to then read the projects, then see which one do you really want to take it up. Once you decide which project that you need to do, you need to fork the repository of the open source project that you were looking at to create a copy of it on your GitHub account, right? So on the repository's GitHub page, you will see a button labeled fork encircled here, right, in the green. Now click this button. GitHub will ask you where you want to fork this repository. Select your own account as the destination and this will create a copy of the repository of this project on your GitHub account, right? So you have started forking the repository on your GitHub account. Then you need to set up your local development environment. And how do you do that is you start by cloning your forked repository to your local machine and setting up a development environment for the project. And for that you start with opening the fork repository on the GitHub. You go to the GitHub account, open the repositories you want to clone, and this is the repository you forked from the original open source project, right? Then you need to click on the code button which is located above the file list. This will reveal the URL you can use to clone the repository. Make sure that it is set to HTTPS, right? So like this you get the repository URL. Then you click the clipboard icon next to the URL to copy it on your clipboard. So you copy the repository URL. Then you open the terminal on command or a command prompt on your local machine. Next step would be to navigate to the directory where you want to clone the repository, and for this you can use the cd command to navigate to the directory where you want to store your local copy of the repository. Then you clone the repository by using the git clone command followed by the URL for your forked repository. Replace the repository and the dash URL with your URL to as copied earlier, right? And this will help you clone the repository. Then you need to authenticate with GitHub, and if especially when it is the first time you are using Git to your local machine, right? And then you will be prompted to enter the GitHub username and password. Some users may use this as a token of authentication. And then Git will start cloning the repository to your local machine. Once it is completed, you would have a local copy of your forked repository in the directory you have specified. Uh, while doing these open source projects, make sure that you understand the contribution guidelines. Now, every open source project has contribution guidelines, which is what you see here in the files that is encircled here. Read and understand these guidelines for submitting contributions, including code style, commit message format, and the process for pull requests. So read these files clearly. Then, while doing this project, start small. Begin by tackling small issues or tasks such as fixing a bug or adding documentation. Now, what these tasks will do is will help you get familiar with the project's code base and the contribution workflow, right? So then once you are clear on what work you're doing, you need to create a new branch on your for your work. Before making the changes, create a new branch for your work on your machine. Branch names are often related to the issues that you're addressing, and this you can do by navigating to the directory on your Git repository using the cd command if you are already not done that. And then you make sure that before creating the new branch, you make sure that you are on the branch on which you want to branch off. Usually it is a main or a master branch, default branch, and you can switch to the default branch using the command git checkout main as you see here. Then update the default branch to ensure that your default branches with the latest changes from the remote repository. You can run a command called git pull, and this will help you update to the default branch. Then you create a new branch, use the git command, git branch command followed by the branch name. Replace branch dash name with the descriptive name of your new branch. For example, git branch feature / my feature. Switch to the new branch by using the git checkout command. This command will switch your working directory to the new branch, and you can do this by using the command git checkout feature my feature. Then you need to verify if you are on the new branch, and for that you can use the git status command. That will show you the current branch on your working directory. So having looked at the few steps that you can do to do the open source projects, what do we do next? So in the next we will look at more things that you have to do to collaborate on open source projects as we go forward. So let's take a look at them as we go to the next lecture. So thank you so much for watching this first lecture on collaborate and contribute. I hope you continue to learn new things, continue to enjoy, and I do look forward to see you again in the next lecture. If you have any questions, do feel free to message me. And if you like to take a look at anything that we have discussed in detail, please download the PDF file and take a good look at the file that you want to.